Hey everyone, it's your host Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we have Mr. Ari Rastegar. This man is fantabulous. He's a real estate investor, author, entrepreneur, known for turning failure into long-term leverage and success. Starting from the ground up, this is not a rags to riches, but a hard work and hustle to now where he is. He's known as the Oracle of Austin, New York Times bestselling author. You can Google him. You can find him. The book is out today, The Gift of Failure. He's also a private equity CEO, attorney by trade, biohacker, father, and a true man on a mission to change the paradigm, change the face of how you, me, us do business and how we can thrive and succeed in life. So, Mr. Rastegar shares hard-earned lessons on building sustainable success from the inside out. He consistently delivers thoughtful content and brings an engaged audience of more than 750,000 followers globally. And he's here blessing the stage on the Gentleman Style Podcast stage with us today. So, without further ado, help me welcome to the stage this incredible man, this incredible phenom, Mr. Ari Rastegar.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. You're gonna make me blush.
Absolutely, sir. You are fantastic, and you are doing phenomenal work. And it is an honor to have you here. Thank you for spending time with us and the Gentleman Style family, sir. Starting off, you teach and coach, and you've led numerous facets of life. But I want to start here with a core principle, a core value. You've been called the Oracle of Austin. And so everyone talks about the success in business, but everybody, what's the most famous quote I've heard is, it took me 20 years to be an overnight success. What's the downside of being branded a prophet in an industry built on unpredictability? Because I think everyone speaks about your success, but we what helps us, me, do better is what are the downsides?
Well, that name is cute and nice, and I'm sure it's got some headline attention over the years. But I'm just a regular guy, Marcus. Okay, and I like the way you said before. This is not a rags to riches story, because I've been very blessed to have all my senses, my arms, my limbs, be able to be born in America, raised by a single father, and who did the best to put me in a great situation. So no, I didn't have those. But yes, I did hustle for everything that I kind of have today. And I think that a lot of these labels and these monikers, I am not a prophet. I am not psychic. The only thing that might be psycho is how much I work, but not being a psychic. We made our investors a lot of money over the years, that are firefighters, that are public pension plans, that are, high net worth investors. And I'm very, very proud of that. But a lot of it comes from grace. And I know that sounds a lot of corny to a lot of people. But to you, I know, as a man of God, as a man that, in the order that you explain, this gentleman's gathering. And I'm glad you're doing this for gentlemen, because I think a lot of our men are living quiet lives of desperation right now, or are missing this time together, these tribal unions to share and talk and speak our minds, and the ladies too. They need it as well in their groups and their communities. And in this particular one, I'm very happy that you're doing this, and thank you for having me today to share a little bit about it. But look, my work is my worship. I'm not Mother Teresa, by any stretch of the imagination, but my work is my worship. And how we go about doing things, building industrial facilities, thousands of homes, apartments, now data centers, skyscrapers, you name it. It's always about this obsession with our customer. Like, how can we create more value? How can we serve? And I think the principles of how we serve, how we contribute, and the core values of who we are translate directly into the businesses that we're running. Certainly on the ones that that I believe in. But it wasn't long ago that I was flipping burgers at Johnny Rockets, putting myself through two community colleges before undergrad, before law school, before all these things. And I'll tell you, hard work with purpose has magic. There's, you rather in Think and Grow Rich, or in some of the religious scriptures, they've said this common thread is that we're creators. And I truly believe that. And I believe that if we set our mind to something, that's one thing. But when we set our heart to something to serve, and we put every ounce of energy we have behind it to build something, first by building ourselves and then contributing, that there truly is limitless opportunities. And there's nothing in life that is done alone. If you look at the birds, the bees, the trees, the ants, the leaves on a tree, a family, a business, it's always done as a union. It's always done as community. It's always done together. This might look like one body and one person talking to you, but there's trillions of cells in here, and organs, and hair follicles, and that's been the big awakening to me, is as a master plan community builder. And one of our properties is 318 acres. We built a new elementary school, 60 acres green space, houses, apartments, commercial space. And what we like to say is, we want to put unity back in community. And it sounds a little corny, I know, but it's something that we truly believe in. And if you don't have grace, you don't have partners. Teams win championships, people don't. And I think that's the most important realization. So I'm happy to have these conversations, share these conversations, and the pillars that you've laid out for the gentlemen in your group. And I'm happy to be here today.
Absolutely. Woo-hoo! Sauce. This is huge. This is huge. Sir, I want to touch on, you made some very great points earlier, and I need you to help me debunk your myth. And thank you for your humility in saying, hey, he puts one leg in his pants just like everybody else. But I need your help debunking a myth, because there is that, especially amongst men, hustle, grind,
Yeah,
and but then there's there's books out there like the 4 Hour Work Week. You don't have to
sure.
hustle to achieve success. And so, do you believe
That's straight
greatness?
bullshit.
Do
Like,
you
with
believe?
all due respect, there ain't no 1 hour nothing. There ain't no 5 minute workout. There in my look, I'm a regular dude, like I told you. Maybe there's some genius out there, something that can do it in 4 hours. I haven't met them. And that's not the case for me. You know what I mean? Like, and I can only speak from my own perspective, and opinions are like, what, everyone's got them. But I've worked 120 hours a week for over 20 years. Okay. I haven't taken a day off since I can ever remember. And that's another discussion, which I don't recommend either. I don't recommend anybody following my path, because if they looked at anything that I've done on paper that might seem to be, good or great or whatever, if they knew how much work went into it, how much pain, how much suffering, how much loss, how much time away from my family, it wouldn't seem extraordinary at all. And I think that's very important to shine a light on the truth in that regard.
So you think so it's false. I
It's false
agree
to
with you.
me.
I
I,
no,
I think it's complete bullshit. It's not just false. I think it's dangerous to have mislead people like that, because it creates so much. I did the 4 hours like the book said, and I'm still feeling like whatever. Into where someone that's put in their heart and their energy and their trust to read a book, spend their money on the book, give their attention to the book. But and our mamas and dads have told this from the beginning of time, or grandma, grandpa, somebody has said, the get rich quick scheme, the, fast money goes fast. Pick any cliche you want. Anything that looks to be too easy is bullshit. In my opinion, the hard path, the path less traveled by, the honest way of building one brick at a time, not worried about the wall, but lay one perfect brick every single day. One day you'll look up and the wall will be done. But skipping out on the hard work is not only not going to work, but the other part is that hard work is where you become the person that deserves to hold what that success actually is. So you're not working, if you're in a job right now and you say, I'm working for this person, I'm making them rich. Well, that's one way to look at it. I prefer to give it a different meaning and saying, I'm not working for them, I'm working with them, but I'm working on me. I'm not working for anybody, in that particular regard. And I think that's very important because your life is your indoctrination. When you're working and pushing, if you're in the gym, let's say, exercising, the muscles that you build at the end, that's fine. But the person you become by pushing through those last reps, showing up when you don't want to, going through soreness and misery and pain, that person you become, that is the real gift. That is the real blessing. That is the real wealth.
Absolutely. You remind me of another incredible speaker who says the same thing. We need to stop fantasizing and telling people do what you want, right? Do what you want. Sometimes you need that indoctrination period in order to get where you want, but you need to go through some hard times. You need to work that
Not
job that you may not
sometimes.
care for.
Look at history. Look
Yeah.
at history. Okay. And I worked a lot of jobs that I didn't want to work. Okay. And as a grown ass man, I worked a lot, even as an attorney. When I was in New York City, I worked for a lot of people as a grown ass man that, um, that I think some people would have thought were beneath me or this or that, which is also bullshit. There's nothing beneath any of us. Look, we are all equal. This is a big misconception that I've discovered in my life. I learned this from Tony Robbins. Shout out to Tony Robbins, one of the greatest gifts to humanity, honestly. For me, going to his seminars, spending time in the things he's done, the forums he's done. I did one of his seminars virtually like 3 months ago here. So the learning never stops. Constant, continuous improvement is the way. But I gotta tell you that the lack of humility, and humility doesn't mean thinking less of yourself. Humility means thinking less about yourself and thinking about the mission, about the purpose, and where you are focused and not looking left or right. Look at the greatest sprinters in the world. They're not looking at the left or right. They're looking left or right after they already crossed the finish line. Like running your race, knowing what your strengths are, your weaknesses are, your goals are, and doing any and everything that you possibly need to do to get where you're going. But when that ego starts coming in, what this person can think, what's that person's going to think, that's the real enemy. That's the real devil. And it exists right between your ears.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to take this opportunity to stay in the same breath because you said it earlier, and I agree with you. Men are not doing well. Our men are not thriving. We're not
No.
thriving. We're not surviving. We're not going out and killing it and bringing it back and dragging it back to the cave. Do you believe, as a high performance professional, a man who's done the hard work? So this is you've been on the deck plate, you've been ground level, and now you're achieving the things that you rightfully deserve because you work hard for it. Do you believe children should be exposed to struggle intentionally? Because
Yes.
I've had the opposite effect where parents are like, no, I need a child to stay in a child's place. I need to
No.
protect this child.
I
You don't
I
need
don't.
to
I'm
go.
a father of three. I'm a father of three. Okay,
Yeah.
I have a 6-year old, a 10-year-old, and a 13-year-old. And I am by no means an expert on parenting. God knows I've made every mistake in the world, including my own divorce and a bunch of other stuff that I won't bore you with. But what I've come to learn about children is children don't do what you say; they do what they see. And one, and two, failure and falling and scraping your knees is how you learn. And so there's a fine line between being hard on your kids, that's abuse. There's a fine line between being hard on yourself and being disciplined, and then also self abusing yourself and telling yourself you're a piece of shit and being counterproductive and then not being productive for you and for others. But in my belief, testing your children, putting them around situations where they can fail early, fail fast, fail often, but as John Maxwell's words, fail forward, I think is the best way, and not just children, but I've employed hundreds, if not thousands, of people throughout my life in various ways, and creating a culture where failure is acceptable and encouraged. Yes, within certain boundaries, no recklessness, no nefarious behavior, fine, but that is how we grow as human beings. And there was a time when we started to become shamed for failing. And I think that cultural shift is so harming to our psyches because failure is how we learn how to win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so we need failure, and we're causing more harm than good.
I think, but like I said, the
Yeah.
only thing I know for sure at this point in my life, Marcus, is that I'm going to change my mind and that change is going to happen. And every time I think that I've been right, I something comes up where I say, "But Mark Twain." So I was an English major in undergrad, okay, English literature major before law school. And Mark Twain is one of my favorite writers of all time, certainly in the English language. And he has maybe my favorite quote of all time. Okay. And that's a bold statement coming from me. I'm a lifetime reader. Like I'm reading the pamphlets next to I'm reading 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Anybody that knows me knows that. Novels, pamphlets, self help books, scholarly journals. I'm reading. And I think leaders are readers. That's another discussion. But Mark Twain said, it's not what we don't know that gets us in trouble. You following me?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's
mm-hmm,
not what we don't know that gets us in trouble. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so.
mm-hmm. Ooh, I like that. I like that. I really
So,
do.
meaning keeping a curious mind, people are like, well, this is just how I do it. This is just how it is. And this is how it's always, that behavior in a world of AI, in a world of rapid change, in a world of so much technology, I think is so dangerous and is also very cowardly, quite frankly, because you have to be brave and courageous to say, I could be wrong, or I made a mistake, or I did it this way. I'm going to change and keep that curious mind like a child that's constantly trying this and trying that, and know you're going to fuck up. And know that that's also okay. And that's why I like, for when it comes to kids or entrepreneurs, fail big early. One of the greatest gifts someone can have with health, physical health, is to have a health scare early in life. Early in life, have one thing that happens, they broke their arm, so like, or something, they tore their ACL, or God forbid, some other thing, and they overcame it. So for the rest of their life, they know a little taste of what it feels like to not have your health. So they prepare for the health for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. You're so right. You're so right. You remind me of two things. One is I look at Greek mythology. How did we discover the stars without the technology that we had today? How did we build the pyramids without the great equipment we had today? We had intelligent people asking intelligent questions and having intelligent conversations, but not being afraid to be wrong. Right?
That's the key. I think that's been one of my biggest hindrances that I'm most embarrassed of, I should say, is how long I kept that macho attitude of trying to say that I know something or trying to act like this or that or focusing on, an answer to something when I wish I would have been man enough to ask a better question,
Yes.
and not try to find the answer. What I've come to find is amateurs have answers. Professionals always have more questions.
Absolutely. And they engage in conversations. We ask the right
with
questions.
experts, with
Yes.
experts in their field. Look at the relationship. So there's a great book that I recommend all the gentlemen to read who are listening. It's called Relentless by Tim Grover. Okay. Tim Grover was Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's personal trainer. He also coached the legendary Charles Barkley as well. And the book is about, it's called Relentless. He wrote a second book called Winning, which I really recommend too, but it's called From Good to Great to Unstoppable. And in telling some stories about Mr. Kobe Bryant, who left us too soon, him and his lovely daughter. Um, if you look, Michael is who introduced Kobe to Tim Grover. And he talks about these stories of how for the first years of Kobe's career, but throughout a lot of his career, he'd call Michael at 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, look at stuff, be watching film, constantly asking questions. And Michael was very gracious from everything that Tim Grover says about answering those questions because he knew they came from a place of genuine curiosity, knew that he was doing the work, knew he was doing whatever, but constantly questioning how what this works, how that works, watching more film. Look at Brady, watching more film than anybody are the greatest players in the world. Same with Michael Jordan. And I think that comes to the greatest performers on earth all have coaches. All of them. Every single great, whether call that a mentor, call that an apprenticeship, but having conversations with your elders, with the CEO, your pastor, your rabbi, whoever, but having those dialogues and having the humility and the intelligence to ask a question is definitely going to start separating you from the pack.
Absolutely. What's a belief that you had earlier on your journey, on your learning experience, that you held earlier on in your career that you now consider completely wrong?
That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful question, and I really appreciate you asking that question. I'll tell you a little example that I think will answer it for you because there's been so many. So if you look at a founder, okay, founder of a company, okay, entrepreneur, and I tell you, let's list out some of the qualities, characteristics that make a great founder, a incredible founder. You'd probably say hard work,
Yes.
grit,
Yes.
resilience,
Yes.
persistence, vision, boldness. Will do wear different hats, as good as a lot of different things at marketing, at sales, at engineering, right? Like all different things, right? Will do the work themselves. Will show up, right? All that stuff. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very fair.
All of those traits make a terrible CEO.
Ooh.
A
Ooh.
great CEO trains people, creates systems and processes. They're calm, they're calculated, they're patient. I say all of that to you to where to go from founder to CEO is a revolution in who you are. And I wish early enough I knew. I thought I had to do more. But if I would have taken more time early to learn to delegate, to step back and say that a basketball team is 5 people. Who's playing defense? Who's at guard? My point is that those things that there was an element of ego that was in that, of me wanting to be seen, me wanting to feel worthy, me wanting to do it. Yes. Did it need to be done? A lot of it at a certain point? Absolutely. But we go through seasons in life, we go through seasons in companies, seasons in who we are, that if we're not willing to question who we are and question the process of where we are in the thing, you're never going to evolve into the next stage of who you need to be.
That's I need your help to speaking to that CEO who struggles with that because they feel no one's going to do it the way they do. No one's going to serve the customer. I'm sure at some
Yeah,
point you did it all.
I
You
do. I
already
still do. No, I did. I still do it.
no
I
one's
still
going to
do it.
have that passion. So how do I push back against that? How does a
That's right.
CEO
Yeah, they're
push
right. They're
that
never
feeling?
they're never going to do it. They're never going to do it like you. They're going to do it better.
Mm, okay. Okay.
And once you start finding people that are better than you in certain realms, you immediately have awe and immediately say, "Holy shit, like I'm pretty good at accounting. I'm pretty good at finance. I'm pretty good at deals. You haven't met my accountant."
That's fair.
I'm an attorney. My father's an attorney. I was a bad motherfucker in the courtroom, but you haven't met my lawyers.
Okay.
And when you meet them and they show up and you start to see in that niche, you find the best in the world at what they do. Michael Jordan, a lot of people don't realize, was the best defensive player in basketball when he played. He gets all the notoriety from his shooting, but he was also one of the best defensive players ever. Asked him what he thinks of Dennis Rodman.
He's the best.
Yeah. Nobody's
Yeah.
going to rebound better than Rodman. You see them together even now. The respect and the stuff that he gives him. Like, my point in saying that is, yeah, he was still at that position doing whatever. But until Rodman came to the Bulls, the whole that changed the entire. The point is, you are going to be the best at a moment, but if you don't create space for someone else to come into those shoes, you're not going to scale. Even if you are, let's say, the best at whatever, then hire 5 people that together are as good as you are in that one arena. And then hire 50, then hire 100, hire 200. One of my old mentors, one of my old bosses, one of my old investors, who's one of the most decorated financiers in real estate history. I'm talking about this dude has probably done 450 billion with a B in financing. There's few people on earth that have done that. There's like 4.
Goodness.
And when I was in New York, I felt very insecure that I didn't have a business background, okay? Because I was an English major. I was a liberal arts guy. I'd been reading Dostoevsky and Chekhov and Shakespeare and reading books. And then I was then I studied international communications and business, a little bit in Mexico, and then I was in law school. But my core competency is in words. And the math, the Egyptians built the pyramid, so I'm pretty sure I can build a house, an apartment complex, which I have. So the math is not rocket science. So my point in saying that is I started to take night classes at NYU in Manhattan just to start brushing up on business. I was working a full-time job, crazy hours in New York City, and then going to school at night. And one day he saw me yawn and was
You're
like, "Why are you yawning?" I'm
tired.
tired. He's like, "Ari, my cousin has known you since you're 11 years old. You were his wrestling student. I've known you for years. I've seen you not sleep for 3 days at a time. You don't yawn. Like, what the fuck is going on?" I was like, well, about that, he's like, out with it. I was like, I've been taking classes to study business. He goes, "You want an MBA?" I go, "Yeah, I do, actually." He said, "Hire one."
Ooh. Okay.
"You want
Okay.
2 MBAs? Hire 2. They can't do what you do."
Mm.
And that was a very liberating moment for me at the point of learning delegation, spending time on strategic delegation, finding a strategic alliance. Doesn't mean, well, I don't have any money to go hire someone. That's what all the losers will say. The real answer is not resources, it's being more resourceful. Go find a club of CPAs that are doing something and go join the thing if you can't hire an accountant. There's so many groups of CPAs, accountants on YouTube, on this and that, on friend meetup groups. Go sit in there. Go talk to someone. Show them what you're doing. Maybe they can use it as a work study. Maybe you can share work. You got to be more resourceful and learn to delegate and figure out what you are not the best in the world at and go find your Dennis Rodman.
Who's the in business? Who's the very first significant hire I need to make? Because some people argue I need to hire a salesman, the best of the best salesman. I need to hire a good bookkeeper, the best CPA.
It depends.
Who's
It depends on what business you're in, man. It
yes, sir?
really, 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 really. In the investment business, in my
Yes, sir.
business, I manage money for public pension plans, firefighters, and we're running billions and billions of dollars of pipeline developments. Having an incredible CPA at the beginning to make sure the numbers that you're showing clients, how your use of capital is mission critical. And so that is unbelievably important. I think if I was running a podcast, I think that having a group where I can find great guests and get great sponsors and work on sales. Jack Welch, who is the CEO of GE, used to say that your sales department isn't the whole company. But if your whole company isn't the sales department, you don't have a company. So there is something to be said about making sales and driving revenue, absolutely. So I think if I had to make a blanket statement, not specific, is you got to get more clients. You got to get clients. You got people writing checks, and you have money coming in, and and you have revenues and money's coming. You can start to hire people and grow. But for me and my business, a great CPA and a great lawyer for compliance and things. But that's a highly regulated business. But all in all, more sales Sales is the whole damn thing. You know, if you can get more sales, more sponsors, more views, more attention, you're going to be afforded the luxury to hire better people.
Absolutely. The catch I routinely hear is I can't afford you. I can't afford you, Ari. I want
Yeah,
you. You're the
no,
best. You're the best
yeah,
attorney. You're the best lawyer, but I can't afford it.
yeah. That's a bullshit answer.
Okay.
That's just a reverse procrastination to say poor me. Be more resourceful. Like I said, go figure out something, make it happen. You know, the word decision, okay, decision. It's a very interesting word. It comes from the Latin root incision, which means to cut off. When you make a decision, you're cutting off all obstacles and all ifs, ands, no, should, would, make it happen. And if you don't deserve to have it.
This you guys are tuning into the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. We have the incredible Mr. Ari here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, spilling the tea on business, real estate, investing, money, finance, fatherhood, and and everything in between. New York Times bestselling author, The Gift of Failure, on the show today. Mr. Ari, this is my last question as far as fatherhood and family. I want to ask, how do you teach humility to your children who are growing up in privilege? Sometimes you hear business owners, men, I don't want to spoil my kids because I don't want them to grow up and
Yeah.
be spoiled rotten. How can you speak to the father, the young man, the firefighter, the engineer that doesn't want to ruin their kids' success and their future by over spoiling them?
First, don't over spoil them. And it's
Okay.
not much more complicated than that. And look, I don't know the best answer to that. Certainly, I've made plenty of mistakes here, so I don't want to act like I got the answer because I don't. Let's start with that. Um, but I can tell you that children are little people. Like they know a lot more than we think they do. And I think respecting them as little people, not as kids, is very powerful when you spend time with them and you talk with them and tell them these things. Tell them. As simple as that sounds. If you have a 10-year-old, 8-year-old, say, look, if you go through this thing and you learn how to do it yourself, you're going to be better. You're going to be strong. Let's do it together. Let's go yard sailing. Let's go, I don't know, if you're into sports, buy some memorabilia used and sell it. Show them how to do things and fucking talk to them. Tell them that. Tell them, hey, I'm your dad and I really don't know exactly how to do it. I don't want to spoil you because this can happen. I want to teach you some stuff. Let's talk about things. Straight up just talk to them and you'll be shocked at what these kids say to you and what they know to you. But I think we don't talk to our children enough. And at this point in my life, I decided I'm going to talk to my kids. I'm going to spend time with them. I'm going to miss a lot of time because I'm following my own dreams. They have their dreams too. But the more that we talk, the more we spend time together, and the more that we just have raw conversations about things and let them talk and let them ask questions. In my very humble, not expert opinion, that's a very good way to go about it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I like that. Kids are more resilient than we give them credit for.
Of course they are. But you got to talk, tell them. Tell them what's going on. Mommy and daddy are getting a divorce. It's going to be okay. I love you.
Yep.
Not some bullshit about something or this or that. I don't know, but talk to them. Tell them. And watch them shock you
with their comprehension.
with
The
their
most powerful,
comprehension and their resilience and their ability to understand. You know how many times my kids say to me, it's okay, dad. It'll be okay. It's okay. I love you. Like, oh my God damn, like they're parenting me.
yeah, absolutely. The most powerful thing my father shared with me is, he's like, he came to me. He said straight up, son, I messed up. I didn't put enough money away for your college. So you're gonna have to do this. I'll support you as best I can. But he was honest. He didn't hide it
Yeah.
from me. He didn't lie to me. He's like, I messed up.
There's beauty in that kind of truth, man. I think, are they hard? Are they difficult? They're called hard conversations for a reason. But I find at this point in my life leaning into discomfort leaning into the things, because stress, in my experience, and I saw Jeff Bezos talk about this, recently, is that stress is usually caused by the shit that you should be doing that you're not. So the
Absolutely.
quicker that you do it in whatever area that is, or start working on it, and we all have the things we brush under the rug with our health, with our relationship, with our business, with our something, and it's terrorizing you. But the more you procrastinate it, the more it causes stress. And I find that if it's stressing me out, I try to take some action around that thing as quick as I possibly can, as quick as I snap out of the stupor of the hypnosis of fooling myself, and then the stress starts to lower.
That's fair. That's fair. Tell the truth, y'all. Communicate. Men, communicate.
Men, talk. And ask for help, bro. Ask for help. Like, it's not manly, in my opinion, to walk around upset all the time and try to shelter the burden of everything that is not one man's job. We are a tribal being. We are tribal people. You rely on different parts of your tribe, different parts of your team, different parts of your corporation, different parts of your fam, whatever analogy you want to use. But walking around and sheltering it and being stressed out and giving your kids and your family and your business the worst of you because you're angry and frustrated and this, and just because you don't want to take a look in the mirror, go ask for help, that to me is cowardice. That is not manly, that is not stoic, and that is not cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Big facts. I want to pick on your real estate expertise here. I want to talk about your real estate expertise. You have an incredible mind. You stated earlier, and your legacy shows your history, the things you've accomplished in the world, in business, shows everywhere. Real estate is one of the two things that I have read that makes more successful millionaires and build and allows people to break into legacy building and change lifespans and change their family dynasty and change history. Why did you get into real estate? Can you touch on that?
Same reason as that. My grandfather had an incredible conversation with my grandfather that was the king of Iran's, one of the king of Iran's medical doctors before the revolution, before this crazy stuff happened over there. And he was a medical doctor. He wasn't a businessman. He's an athlete, but he wasn't a businessman. And we were talking one day when I was 8 years old. I talk about this in the book a little bit. And to my grandpa and my dad, real estate meant wealth. That just meant money. If you look at the history of the richest families, as you said, and the history of mankind, real estate is how they kept money and passed it and grew it. Not flipping and any of this bullshit people are doing, but long term, keeping things for decades, not days. Um,
So not fix
and
and flip.
I fix and flip is very, very, very dangerous. Institutional grade real estate investing is longer term. There's a reason why private equity funds are 7 years with 2 1-year extensions. It takes time to create compounded growth and really create value without taking risk, because amateurs can take risk and buy whatever. Professionals think about how they could lose money more than how they think about how they could make money. And that's a big difference. And so my grandpa, we were driving through downtown Dallas, and I said to him, "I want to be a doctor like you," in Farsi. And he looked at me kind of sternly. He's like, "No, we're in
Mm,
America." It's like, "Okay," because you're going to be and he said in English with a thick accent, "You're going to be a businessman." And I'm thinking, what the fuck is a businessman? I was like, "I know doctor, I know lawyer, I don't know businessman." And he's kind of struggling to explain it, and he looks out the window and he said, "You see all these buildings?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "One day you're going to own all of them."
mm.
And I got to thinking, okay, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what owning them means, but it's stuck in my mind. And over the years, talking to my father, reading great history, and learning the stuff that you tipped on. Um, when I was in law school, I used my scholarship money and I borrowed $3,500 to buy a single family lot when I was in law school, and convinced the local developer to partner with me to sign on the debt at the bank so we could borrow $80,000 to build a little single family home. And I worked on the construction side every single morning, and I trucked my way to law school and studied and went to classes and studied till late at night. I was on the construction site, pouring concrete, moving bricks, and doing everything that, doing the real labor work. And we sold it and made money and did another one. And that taught me, what it takes, the unity, the skill sets, the plumbers, the electricians, the roofers. I mean, specialized knowledge into all of these things. And I got a little glimpse early on what could happen with that kind of money and what type of money could be created. We sold it for $115,000, and mind you, at the time, I never had more than $1,500 in my account in my life. And all of a sudden, we made 35, 40 grand. And my deal was with my partner to split the profits 50-50, and we still do that deal to this day. And and I started to do my homework and get deeper into it and went to New York City, the real estate capital of the world. And a couple twists of fates and a little bit of luck got me in the room with some of the biggest real estate people in the world. And I
But
ran with it.
you were a successful lawyer. You were a
I
successful
was.
attorney. Why
I
not
was.
stay that route and build your wealth, build your fortune there?
It's a great question. And I thought about it a lot. And if I knew how hard it was going to be, I might have done that, honestly. I didn't know it was going to be this hard. But now that we're here, adding a couple extra commas to the bank account doesn't hurt my feelings. Um,
Fair enough.
but But the thing about being a lawyer, the education is incredible because everything is the law. Everything, zoning law, the getting married is a law, is a covenant, is a promise. The law with the Lord is a covenant, is the law, spiritual law, divine law. We live in a land, civilized society around law. So understanding the law is critical to any business. Certainly in my business, and all of real estate is a contract law: purchase, sale, loans, investors. Is all law. So thank God for that education. But lawyers, as a typical rule, are dealing with people on the worst days of their life. And
Mm.
that type of law, I was a criminal defense lawyer. I did tons of felony jury cases and we won. I mean, we won. But talking to people in that type of stress and looking at family law lawyers dealing with people on divorce. And yeah, there are some lawyers, yes, that work on business stuff, but corporate litigation, someone's suing somebody and someone's upset. And I didn't want to spend my life dealing with people on the worst day of their life. And I didn't want to be the client, wanted to be the lawyer. I wanted to be the client. And that was a big shift.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pivoting, staying right here for one more breath. Two things. What's your favorite type of real estate? Sounds like buy and hold, long-term investment. Hold it till it falls off. Keep it in the
Yeah.
family. What's your favorite type of real estate? And what's a real estate truth that will make people uncomfortable that you've seen that will make people uncomfortable for the next upcoming decade that you think?
Yeah, real estate is going to be, interest rates have been very high. Real estate has been very difficult. My favorite type of real estate is the real estate that we never sell. That's the best kind that you keep forever. That's when we sell it. Never. That's my favorite.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
and more particularly, are things that have necessities. Things that people absolutely need. No matter what's market's going up or down, things that they need. But something that's very uncomfortable about dealing with real estate in the ways that we do, with billions, not millions, and growing exponentially, um, is that real estate growth and real real estate value, like the generational kind you were speaking about, takes so much longer than you think it does. Okay. It is not years, it's literally decades. That's when it starts. Yes, can you do stuff and buy a property and rezone it, build an apartment complex, cash flow it, and sell it? Absolutely. And you definitely can. But what you're talking about, the real exponential growth where you can 5, 10, 20, 30 times your money, you're talking about decades of time. And everybody's looking for that get rich quick, flip this, flip that. And flipping is also something that's really dumb about flipping, that people that actually have done it now know, is, let's say you buy a property, you flip it in under a year and whatever, you have to pay short-term capital gains taxes. So you're losing most of the money anyway. Long-term capital gains is 20%, which is over a year. So buying and flipping it that quickly, you're eroding so many of your profits. So it's not a good strategy to begin with.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, and that makes sense. in a real estate market collapse, if the real estate market collapsed today, what would you do first? If
I
your
mean,
real
it's been
estate
collapsed.
portfolio,
It's been collapsing. This has been the worst 5 or 6 years in real estate in the last 75 years. Global pandemic, real estate high, interest rate hikes. Austin, the market we've been in, has got crushed. So I've been living that market. And I think there's a couple things. This is when you find out that cash, that having cash and liquidity is very important, because everything goes on sale.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is huge. Why you are in the equity investment in investment role? If for those that don't know who are unfamiliar, what does that mean? Um,
Sure. Well, what it basically means is, in a very short term, in a short way of understanding it, is we raise capital, okay, from insurance companies, from public pension funds like the Tyler Texas Firefighter Association, from high net worth and from doctors and lawyers that put in 100 grand, 200 grand, 500 grand, and we aggregate it together through different structures, maybe a fund, maybe to buy a specific property. And by using that capital, that becomes part of the down payment, so to speak, that you use to buy a commercial piece of property. So if you want to buy an apartment complex for $100 million, you need 30 million of cash. So we raise the cash working through those groups, financial advisors, as I said, high net worth people, et cetera, and you aggregate that piece and you buy that property on behalf of the investors. And when it goes to 200 million, you return the 30 million to the investors, and then whatever the profits are, you have a split with them, and you make what's called a promote, which is a share in the profits from buying, managing, operating the property.
and so data centers. How does data centers play into
It's
e-
huge.
what? Why data centers? Why?
Well, for the obvious reasons, in the sense that the insatiable need right now for artificial intelligence to run your chat GPT, for AI chip manufacturing pieces. We're in this fourth industrial revolution, which is the emergence of machine learning and AI and moving towards super intelligence. And it's a much longer discussion. But these data centers are where the computers and the servers are processing these large language models, in order for artificial intelligence continue to adapt and utilize. So on its face outside, it just looks like an industrial building that Amazon could be backing trucks up into when you're driving down the highway. But what's inside of it is massive, massive amounts of servers that need incredible amounts of power, incredible amounts of water to cool them, that's processing the cloud. Like the cloud, as you think about it, is not in the cloud, it's in one of these data centers.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're this type of strategy investing reminds me of Warren Buffett, right? Don't buy gold, buy the shovels. I
Yeah,
feel you guys are investing in the shovels
that's
through
right.
data centers.
I'd like to
What?
I'd like to believe I'd like to believe that's how we look at it. And I'd like to say we're buying both. Rockefeller used to say, if we're building a house, we want to, own the ship that's bringing the lumber and the machine, and own the forest and own the machine that's cutting the tree, and the tree that's cutting, and the people that are, own the whole thing, own the tree that turns into lumber, that turns in, and own the entire chain. And that's what you call being vertically integrated, which not that far, but we're well on our way to doing exactly that.
So you also invest in microchips, ChatGPT.
Not yet, not yet, but I started the firm 11 years ago on Saturday. Um, as a 43-year-old CEO, I'm just getting warmed up.
Have you met Elon Musk?
I'm not.
Okay, you might have been
But
a
I
person.
will. I will. There's been many times that I could have, and I deliberately chose not to, because I didn't think the setting was the appropriate setting. But we'll be talking soon. We own an industrial facility close to the Gigafactory, and a lot of the component parts that go into making a Tesla, we're their landlord. So to build a Tesla in Austin, you have to come through one of my buildings.
Ugh. So is a matter of time. So only a
Everything's a
matter.
matter of time. Very interesting guy.
Absolutely. What's the most controversial deal you walked away from and why?
There was a deal. Well, I won't speak to the particulars of it, but I'll tell you specifically, we could have made an exorbitant amount of money. a ridiculous amount of money. And the way that they were doing it, perfectly legal in every way, but a lot of people would have got hurt. And like I said, perfectly legal. It didn't make sense for me to see the harm of destroying some of the companies and some of the people that it would take to do that. And it was the happiest I've ever been to lose $1 billion. Let me put it that way.
This has been an epic conversation with Mr. Ari. Sir, you've shared so many nuggets, so much great dialogue today. How can people find you? How can people connect with you? How can people learn more?
Absolutely. You can buy The Gift of Failure on Amazon. I'd love for you to read it. I wrote it for you. It covers posture management, health, wealth, business, happiness, all the things that I've screwed up along the way and hopefully learned. You can find us on Instagram at Rastegar Property. We're on LinkedIn. We're all over. You Google my name or Google Rastegar Capital. You can find us, reach out. And if we can help you, we will.
Absolutely. All right, y'all, we got to let this incredible man go. He has many more lives to change, many more books to write, and many more businesses to do, business deals to do. I want to say this to you publicly, sir. Never quit. Thank you for doing what you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
We need you. You are
Thank you very much.
absolutely necessary. All right, y'all. I hope this message has been inspirational, impactful, and I hope this helps you take your business to the next level. Like we end every show. Take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always, always take care of business. This is Marcus, your favorite gentleman, and the superfagilistic espialidocious Mr. Ari Rastegar, signing off. Love you guys.
Thank you, Marcus.
Absolutely.